Welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. Thank you for stopping by. This is brought to you by labmediatv. My name is Hezekiah Morales, and here we go. Remember to follow us on social media at labmediatv.
And zirconia became a commodity, and TechSource got kicked in the pants, and we had to change our business model. And at the time, nobody was really doing monolithic zirconia except for Glidewell. And the whole monolithic zirconia craze really started with Jim. If someone ordered a gold crown with him, he would just mill a zirconia crown just like it, same STL file, and send it with the case. And pretty soon he started converting all his gold to zirconia. And then he became, it's tooth-colored gold or white gold. That's what they were kind of labeling, because it wasn't aesthetic at all. It was pretty damn ugly, to be honest with you. And but we were taking extra time designing. The CAD/CAM systems now versus 2008, 2009 are night and day different. It was so much more difficult to design anything that looked good. We didn't have good libraries. We had very, very poor elementary libraries, and they just didn't look that good. But over time, obviously technology starts catching up, libraries get better, we can mill things that look natural, and in the last 2 to 3 years, the zirconia has caught up, aesthetic-wise. There's more options in materials now than we've ever had, and it's a great time to be in dental lab technology. We've got 7 or 8 different kinds of zirconia that we use, and all of it's very aesthetic and all of it's very strong. And we've got 3 different kinds of pressed ceramic. We've got 3 or 4 different kinds of milled lithium disilicate or lithium silicate. So we have options, tremendous amount of options. I can mill feldspathic veneers. And people ask me, how do you mill feldspathic? I'm like, Mark II's been around for 30 years. It was just been used in Cerex in the doctor's office for inlays, onlays. It's a beautiful material for veneers. It just, lab techs never really kind of went down that road. And Peter Peasy and I have been talking about it for a couple of years now. I love doing monolithic feldspathic veneers, and they're beautiful and strong, and he's kind of started going down that road too. And so we have tremendous amount of aesthetic options now, so it's kind of the perfect storm. We have the strength and the aesthetics, and then we have the CAD/CAM systems out there that can produce very natural looking restorations. And we're getting to the point where articulators aren't even going to be needed much longer. There's a dentist out of France, I can't remember his name, but he has a software system called ModJaw. I don't know if you've heard of it. I saw it when I was down in Sao Paulo about 3 weeks ago for the DSD residency course, and he demoed it. He was down there, and it is absolutely amazing. You can take an intraoral scan from iTero, put it in ModJaw. The patient he wears some appliances, and they give him a little piece of apple, and he starts chewing, and all of a sudden, those teeth that have been scanned in an intraoral scanner are moving in his chewing pattern. And it is flat out amazing. And then you can incorporate your restorations from exocad into the ModJaw software and work them out in function to see if they're interfering with the world's most perfect articulator, his articulator, his own mouth. And so we can work out function and occlusion in virtual space just like that. That's the world's most perfect articulator, and then translate that into just milling STL files. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming along, and I am not all technology, I am not all analog. You have to have 1 foot in analog and 1 foot in technology. You have to have the analog knowledge to operate CAD/CAM systems. Otherwise, you're just hitting next and you're producing a piece of crap. And so the technician of today has to educate themselves on the fundamentals. They also have to educate themselves in CAD/CAM, because there's no going back. We've crossed that point a long time ago. And the 100% analog guys that are still holding on to that are dinosaurs. And I know a lot of them out there, and they're tremendously talented technicians. But these guys are unfortunately going to die on the vine. And look, we have technicians in this country that get $1,000 for a single central, and God bless them. I think it's awesome. For me, if I never see another single central again, I don't care. Single centrals don't make me money. What makes me money are smile designs and full mouth rehabs. And they're designed correctly in my CAD/CAM systems because they're set up correctly by analog wax ups that are translated into the digital world, and it comes together.
So
there are two things in this. When I lecture, I hammer this home to technicians. The first thing I ask them is, what differentiates you from anyone else? Most of them can't answer. And that's a problem. If you can't differentiate your laboratory, you're just the rest of the masses that are fighting for the crumbs that are thrown from the table scraps. Are you efficient? And I ask this all the time. How are you efficient? And if you say yes, how do you think you're efficient? How is your how do you measure efficiency? So in my laboratory, we've differentiated ourselves because we've established ourselves over the years as a laboratory that can take on a full mouth rehab from a CR bite and models. And whether it's a digital scan or an analog impression, it doesn't matter. And we take that, we set it up on the articulator the way it's supposed to be. We work out the function in a diagnostic wax up. We translate that into the digital world. And that's kind of our niche. And yes, do I love building really beautiful teeth, colorful teeth, really chromatic teeth? Of course I do. But the vast majority of our cases are OM2, OM3, 1M1, you name it. It's just, that's what we get. And I'm fine with that because that's where I make my money. And so, I understand the technicians out there that are, nature. Yes, I want my crowns to look as natural as possible. But it's also a business. I'm not here to sit here and make a single central 4 times to get it right. That makes me no money. So there's a fine line that we all have to toe, that line of being profitable, yet creating the best restorations we possibly can.
now, with the technology that's available and the tools that are available and the materials, the progression that we've seen in the materials that are available that are rendering phenomenal results, doesn't this also contribute to a certain extent, or could it, or is it even contributing to some extent to the lack of commitment to the education? Because now I have a crutch, all I have to do is put that through the software, and the software is going to give me the option to go through the library, just click, and ship out?
To a certain extent, yes, because technicians that don't necessarily know what they're looking at on screen, it's a totally different world when you're looking at a CAD/CAM, like a 2D world. It's 2D. It looks 3D, but it's 2D, and something on a model. So there's a learning curve on that, and a big one. And technicians are going to find out the hard way if they just think they can take what they know here and apply it in the virtual world. It just doesn't happen like that. And I agree with you that a lot of labs think they can just hire someone that has computer knowledge and set them in front of a screen and just say, move the teeth where they're supposed to be, take them out of occlusion, get your contacts right, get your occlusion right, and hit next. And it's no different than doing it analog when you hire a technician off the street and he doesn't have a clue, and you just tell him to take it out of occlusion and get the contacts right. There's no difference in that philosophy, but there's a big difference in what you see in the real world and what you see in the virtual world. And so that just comes from experience. And again, education. You've got to figure out how to manipulate things in the virtual world like you would in the analog world.
And you said that's quite the learning curve.
Yeah, and you have to have a broad base of education in the analog world to apply it into the digital world. Otherwise, you're going to get just as lost in the digital world as you would over here. And, like I said, I'm constantly taking education. I never stop learning. And if you come across a dental technician that thinks he knows everything, yeah, or a clinician for that matter. I had the fortune to learn from arguably the brightest mind in dentistry, John Coyce, and he is probably one of the most humble people you'll ever meet, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He remembers your name from the first time you introduce yourself to him and never forgets it. And the guy probably reads, I'm not making this up, at least 10 articles a day and reviews them. He's constantly educating himself. And he'll tell you, if you can prove me wrong on anything I'm saying, I will change my curriculum. Because we all never stop learning. We just don't. And that's one thing that really I gravitated towards with John. And again, to this day, I keep going back and back to the symposiums.
So, again, you're really pushing for education, and other conversations that I've had have also pushed towards education. Now, what would you say to a dental technician professional that's telling you, yeah, Bobby, I hear you, I'm doing all that, I'm going to the CEs and I'm reading articles and I'm taking courses online, but how do I get my business to the next level? I'm stuck.
Yeah,
I can't break through the ceiling. What would you answer to these technicians?
So I see a lot of technicians over the years, and it's actually kind of funny because you see a few of them that are like they're at every CE course. They spend enormous amounts of money on CE and time on CE, but they never take it home and apply it. And the biggest disconnect that I see, even if you are taking CE, you now have to go home and put in the time. What is the book I read? It's called Blink. No, it's not Blink. Yeah, I think it's Blink. It was about a table tennis guy. He was an English table tennis Olympian. And the entire book, the premise was nobody's a prodigy. Nobody. Everybody that is great in this world has put in their 10,000 hours. And it's no different in dental lab technology. You have to put in your 10,000 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm still to this day, I have so much to learn and so much more to be better at. And I've put in well over 10,000 hours.
So you're saying in order for a dental technician to begin to see that next level and surpass their ceiling, they must apply what they're learning.
Exactly. And so you can't say, okay, I'm charging $200 a crown. Now I'm going to charge $300 a crown. Well, if your quality doesn't improve, how long do you think that $300 a crown is going to last? And how many clients are going to continue to pay an extra $100 a crown if the quality isn't commensurate with the price increase? So going by that over the years, I never gave myself a price increase on a fee increase unless I knew my work had improved to justify that fee increase. And so when I teach a porcelain course or I lecture, I'll tell them you can charge anything you want. You just have to back it up. And if you're not willing to put in the hours to get better, to back it up, then don't stop talking to me about this. I'm not trying to be rude, but I hear it all the time. Oh, I can't charge those fees. Why not? Because where I live is depressed, or I live in a small town, or I'm constantly surrounded by big labs. And I go, you ever heard of a town called Idaho Falls, Idaho? And most everyone has no clue what Idaho Falls, Idaho is, because frankly, it's a tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. And I go, it's about a town of 6,000 people, I think, maybe even less right now. There's a guy there that bought a bank building out that's 2 stories, probably the biggest building in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And lo and behold, he's a dental technician who charges well over $500 a crown. Probably one of the most intelligent dental technicians in the country, a guy named Matt Roberts, also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. How did he build that big of a business in the middle of nowhere? He started educating himself. He started attending clinical meetings. He started getting to know clinicians, and the clinicians started asking him for work. And through that, over time, he got referrals to other clinicians, and a network started. It doesn't happen overnight. It's taken me 19, almost 20 years to get where I am. And it took Matt well longer than that. And he's on cruise control, and God bless him. I see him skiing in the middle of the week. I'm like, you earned it, my brother, because you busted your rear end to get to where you are through education, commitment, and applying it to a business model that worked.
Wow, that is truly inspiring. I consider the words that you just shared, and it just makes so much sense. It's the hard work has to be present. The commitment has to be present. And definitely the application of the information that's been given. A dental technician comes and asks you, Bobby, I'm a young guy. I'm starting. Where do I start? Where do I begin?
Just starting out?
Just starting.
Really no experience?
I'm excited to begin, but I don't know where to begin. I don't know if I should go to a dental school, if I should take courses online. Where do I begin, Bobby?
Yeah, so I think if someone's that eager to get into this business, and which I applaud it, because right now there's a severe lack of young technicians wanting to get into this business. The best thing I can tell them to do is absorb as much as they possibly can from an education standpoint, but at the same time maybe find a higher quality lab and interview them, not you get interviewed. Interview them and ask them about what is their commitment to education, what is their commitment to being the best that they can possibly be. Because I can tell you, if a young technician came in and asked me for an interview and those words came out of his mouth, I'd hire him on the spot. Because I know that kid has drive and he's thinking about what he wants to do, he or she. All I see now is technicians come in and here's the resume, and they'll walk in shorts and t-shirts and could care less if I look at their resume or not, and it blows my mind. And there's just a severe lack of kind of a thirst or a hunger to be better.
Wow. Do you think it's a societal disease, not just in the dental?
Of course it is. I mean, when everyone gets a trophy for participation, that has a trickle effect over the years. Look, I was raised, I had to work for everything. I came from a very poor family. And, when I was in middle school, I lived in Ardmore, Oklahoma, which is halfway between Dallas and Oklahoma City. and there wasn't a lot of clothing stores to buy school clothes from. My mom told me, I'll buy you school clothes, but they'll have to be in Ardmore, or you can get a job, work all summer, and I'll drive you to Dallas, and you can buy your own clothes. And so a work ethic was instilled in me 6th, 7th grade. I had my first job in 6th grade. I worked at the horse stable. I'd saddle a horse every morning and ride out and bring in the horses and saddle all those horses. I worked my butt off all summer just so I could go. My mom could take me to Dallas and buy school clothes, and it continued over the years. And that work ethic stayed with me, and I appreciated everything I had because I bought it, and so I took care of everything. And to this day, it's almost comical. People get in my car and like, is this car new? No, it's 2.5 years old. It's because I'm fanatical about keeping my cars clean because I paid for it. And I'm not going to trash something that I paid for. That kind of work ethic has just almost disappeared in our younger generations. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but for the most part, it's, what are you going to give me now? What do I get for free? And for me, you get nothing for free. You can have a job and work for something, and then I'll compensate you well. But until you show me that drive, I'm not going to talk to you.
Absolutely. What do you have coming up next in terms of education that you're going to be teaching? Where can our listeners, our followers here at the Dental Today podcast find you, follow your lectures, your classes, your lessons?
Actually, this year's a little light. I have 2 table clinics tomorrow for Vita, and then Saturday I have 2 more table clinics. I'm not doing any lectures this year. I kind of wanted to take it a little easy because I turned the big 5-0 on Sunday.
Congratulations.
No, it's awful. 5-0. It's really hard to say.
But you look great, Bobby.
Oh, thank you. But this is a great profession to be in, and I really wish over the years that more technicians kind of, I'm not saying went down the train of thought that I had, because I see a lot of technicians that work 60, 70, 80 hours a week for 40, 50 grand a year, and they hate their lives. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. I have very good friends in this business, and we go on vacations together, and we talk about our business models, and we're constantly trying to help each other. And Victor Castro, Josh Polanski, Javier Vasquez, we all go on vacations with one another because we love each other so much, and our husbands and our wives and kids, and it's nice to have that family within dental lab technology to be able to bounce ideas off each other. One of us gets in a bind, we FaceTime each other and say, hey, can you send me a puck overnight? Or, hey, what would you do in this case? Or, we ask each other questions all the time. You're a product of the 5 people that you're surrounded by the most. And if you're surrounding yourself by losers, what do you think's going to happen? I am constantly trying to surround myself with better. And it's not that, it's not that I dislike the people I'm around. I'm just constantly trying to be better. And better at everything. Better at a husband, better at a business owner, better at the technician. It just never stops. And too many people don't really adopt that attitude. They're just complacent, and they're like, woe is me. Why is life treating me so poorly? Well, life's treating you so poorly because you don't want to do anything about it.
It's powerful. So you're going to be in Chicago now, going to be doing a couple of table clinics. Do you have anything throughout the year? I know it's light, but do you have anything else coming up?
Yes. Florida Dental Lab Association. I think it's in May.
Yes, FDLA.
Yeah,
I believe it's the 5th and the 6th Thursday.
I think so. I have a a lecture and a one-day course down there, so two-day course. Whoops. And then San Antonio, it's a River City Study Club, but it's a bunch of technicians, I believe. It's about 75 to 100 technicians.
Wow.
So in June, I'll be lecturing for them, and then I do a Spectrum Vancouver, a lecture in November. I've got a couple other things. I just can't remember what the dates are.
Gotcha. That's great. So we're going to be definitely catching up with you in Florida.
Okay.
FDLA.
Yeah, I love going to FDLA. I haven't been in a while. Gosh, it's been quite a while. But it's always a good state. I think that and FLDA is probably one of the best state-run lab meetings, I think. They used to have one in Indiana, like Indianapolis, and it was like Tri-Cities or Tri-State. That was a really good meeting, and for whatever reason, I think it kind of dissipated over the years. And that's another thing, state-run meetings. Like our Texas meeting is... And the problem is, a lot of these state-run organizations, with all due respect, are run by people over 60 to 70 years old, and they don't see the forest through the trees, and they see an initial cost of bringing a lecturer in, or they won't contact a company who will sponsor that lecturer and get good education to come to the state meetings.
And then people don't assist.
And people don't show up. And so it's, again, a vicious cycle, I hear all the time, I can't afford CAD-CAM equipment. You can't afford not to have CAD-CAM equipment. At this point in dental lab technology, you have to have, at a minimum, a scanner and CAD software. At a minimum. You can have someone else mill all day long. It's up to you. For me, I've been around mills since 2003, so I used TechSource as my outsourcing center for years, and about 4 years ago, I bought the Zircon's On system and never looked back. It was the best thing CAD-CAM-wise I've ever done. Within a year, we almost doubled our production with no more employees and no more hours because we became more efficient. The efficiency almost doubled our revenue within a year.
And was the aesthetics, was the quality compromised by the efficiency?
No. That's the thing. In Synergy Ceramics, it's a hard, fast rule. We do not become more efficient unless we know the aesthetics and the function isn't compromised. If it is not compromised and we can become more efficient, then we'll go down that road. Otherwise, if it just means we're faster, If it just means it's easier, unless the aesthetics and function is not compromised, we won't go down the road to become more efficient. So you've got to weigh these options, but I don't want to talk dollars, but Zircon's On wasn't cheap. It's arguably one of the most expensive, and it's closed. But what you get out of that system is far and above anything that I have dealt with in the past. I'm not saying other systems aren't as good, but in my humble opinion, you've got a couple of CAD-CAM systems out there that are head and shoulders above everything else. And I think what we get into, and you'll see it in the flea market, I call it the flea market down there, how many scanners are you going to see tomorrow? How many mills are you going to see tomorrow? How many printers are you going to see tomorrow? Okay, and then how many CAM systems and how many CAD systems? So the problem with technicians is they try to save money and piecemeal all these systems together by buying a scanner from one company, a mill from another company, a CAD system from another company, a CAM system from another company, a printer from another company. And you essentially have 4 to 5 companies that you have to try to find a way to talk to each other. guess what happens in that process? Information gets lost.
And then who's going to help you?
Look, I'll tell you, in 2003, lava was a closed system, right? It's not pretty much non-existent now, but it was a closed system. And all we did was moan and cry about open systems. Oh, everything has to be open. Everything has to talk to one another. Well, what I've found over the years is I certainly admit to my mistakes, but a closed system, such as Zircon's on, is made to talk to each other perfectly. So if I scan something and it goes into the CAD software and I design it and it goes into the CAM software and it calculates and then it mills, I get exactly what I see on the screen. That's not the case when you're piecemealing all these different systems together. And it can be a problem.
The Frankenstein operation.
Exactly. So there's a bonus to having a closed system. Now, it's the closed system that you pick will determine how high a quality you have.
Very interesting. Bobby, we really appreciate you being very generous with your time. We understand that you have courses, lectures, and preparation for the rest of the weekend. We thank you for sitting down with the Dental Today podcast and sharing with all of our listeners in the Lab Nation and the Clinic Nation your experiences, your opinions, and all the things that have worked for you and the things that you believe that should be mended also. We thank you for your time. We look forward to having you in the future.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.